Where my girls at? Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's something serious. Where my girls at? We ain't linked up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right.
I think that we are live. Welcome to We Got Issues, the radio show. My name is Cheryle Jackson, and I am the guest host for today's show. I met the force of friendship. That means I met Gloria, Katerina, Sabrina, and Chrisette. Oh gosh, back in March, I think, of this year. And I was just so impressed with these women individually and their friendship. And we just connected. And so now I may not be a part of that core force of friendship, but I consider myself a friend of this crew, this force of friendship crew. And when they reached out to me and asked me to step in and guest host while they are frolicking in Hawaii, I said, absolutely. But then I pulled in my girl. And my girl is my sister, Michelle Robinson McKissack. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, how are you? It's so great to join you. This is really a lot of fun, Cheryle. I just thank you for having me join you as you co-host this show for the wonderful team vacationing in the tropics.
Yes, vacationing. They are just making me so jealous. I've been watching their lives. Chrisette went live yesterday after a massage on the beach, and I was like, "Okay, girl, okay, you know I'm in Chicago where the weather is kind of iffy," and so I had such envy watching this beautiful surroundings. But I'm so glad it's a girls' trip, and every woman needs a girls' trip. So, when was our last girls' trip? Are we due for another?
We are long overdue, long overdue for the girls' trip. I think it may have been, was it like one of your birthdays? We were your last birthday that we celebrated together, like in Miami. Was
In
it? I'm
Miami,
not sure.
absolutely.
You
So
do. You're
we're
much better
long.
about those. You do much better about those girls trips than I do. My girl trips always come through you because you're just like one of those cool people who have cool friends, and I'm just like twiddling my thumbs at home.
So not true. And we're going to get into that. Okay, so not true. But yeah, so we're overdue. I got some inspiration. Maybe Hawaii's on the horizon, and I just am excited for the ladies of the Force of Friendship. But here we are today on We Got Issues, and we're going to be talking about career and professional pivots. Specifically, when do you know it's time to pivot? What's the best kind of pivot, the mindset that you need to have, and how can you pivot risk free? Almost. Okay. We always want to, we want the world, but we don't want to take very many risks. And that sometimes keeps us from our dreams and the life that we want, desire, and deserve. So we're going to talk about how to manage your risks down so you can go ahead and take that leap if that's what you need to do. Well, Michelle, you are the personification of a career pivot. You've had a huge career as a journalist, award-winning, Emmy award-winning journalist. Why don't you tell a little bit about your background, where you went to school, your degrees, your pedigree, girl? We need to know. We need to hear the pedigree of your journalism background, and then we'll talk about your pivot.
All right, Cheryl, thank you so much for giving me this platform to share. But I want to preface it, first of all, with saying that Cheryl is the big sister in every single way. And so I want to make sure that you share your story, because my story is so directly linked with your story. Being the little sister, Cheryl has always encouraged me just to step outside my comfort zone. I remember one time, I think I was probably about 6 years old, first grade. And I don't know if you remember the story, but there was like this little school play or whatever. And one of the characters was like Miss Sally, Strep Miss Sally. And I wanted to do it, but I was afraid to do it, to try out for it. And you're like, you absolutely have to do that, Michelle. And you would have us practice in our bedroom, me like going, strut Miss Sally, Sally, Sally. So she's been poking and prodding me ever since to step outside my comfort zone. So by the way, I did get that part. But
Of course you did. You were
fast
coached by the
forward.
best. Okay. What
True
were you?
that,
You
true
were
that.
6. I was 10. Okay. So, we were really young. I don't know where mom was. She was just like with 5 kids. You just tune a lot of stuff out. Okay. So
I know, I know. You were truly the second mama. But fast forward to growing up, in Memphis. I always loved reading, I always loved writing. So I went off to attend college at Northwestern University, got bachelor's, master's degrees in journalism, and then I began my broadcast career as a on-air reporter and eventually news anchor. And so I did that for many years, 20 plus years. Had the good fortune of winning an Emmy for some of my work. So that was really rewarding. And then at this point and throughout this process, I had 3 sons along the way. And after, just hard charging for many years in my career as a journalist rather, I decided to step back. And then along came a 4th child and my little girl. She's now 11. And so that's when I took a step back from my broadcasting career and focused on my children, my family. And at that point, you've got all this energy, and I put it into my children's schools. And from there, I just became very involved as like PTA president. And then eventually I was, appointed to some state level education advisory boards. And then it was you, Cheryl, who said, Michelle, you're doing all this work anyway. Had you ever thought about running for the school board? And so I did that pivot. I followed your advice. And in 2018, I ran for my local school board. I beat an 8-year incumbent. And so now I'm coming toward the end of my first term. I'm up for reelection. I'm currently the chair of the board. And our school district here, in Memphis Shelby County Schools, it's one of the 25 largest school districts in the country, and certainly the largest one in all of Tennessee. So that is my story in a nutshell of my career pivot from a 20 plus year career in television news into a completely new arena, but it's also just still was a part of my passion.
I know, so often women, we do the work without the title. We do the work without and the money, okay? And we just have to, really step up and own every bit of our power, our presence, and our talent. So I was prodding and pushing, and you are doing a phenomenal job being an education advocate for the students in the school system in Memphis and Shelby County, which is amazing. So your pivot was from journalism into education. And so that's a big swing. And it didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of consternation, a lot of wringing of the hands. And, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, the mindset that is needed in order to make career pivots. I, I'm the queen of a pivot. Okay, so I,
I know, I
uh,
know.
right? Okay, I've done a lot of things, not little things, a lot of things, and
Are you
media,
going to share?
nonprofit. I'm sharing civil rights. I was civil rights CEO. leader. I worked for NPR, was vice president for communications marketing at NPR. I ran government affairs for Amtrak. I was an art director, graphic designer. I, worked for. I was press secretary and chief press secretary and communications director for a former governor who name shall remain nameless. Okay, fill in the blanks. Google me. You'll know who I'm talking about. And then I pivoted into running for office. So, you won your office, your seat. I did not win when I ran for U.S. Senate, Barack Obama's Senate seat. But I did really positioned me nicely for a totally different opportunity in corporate America, and that's working for aviation and the defense industry. So here I am now, just did a new pivot as the CEO of a telehealth company called My Own Doctor. And so my career has really been super diverse. And I've always done a series of pivots. Generally, every 3 or 4 years, I've done the pivot. But tell me, what? I'll share with you after you share.
Mhm.
You share first, okay? But what kept you from? Why were you so hesitant to make that pivot?
I didn't see myself. I just did not see myself as, a so-called politician. And that's what I thought. I was like so focused on that title as opposed to what was my true passion. And, whereas I don't see myself as an educator in the traditional sense, but in my career as a television news journalist, that I would go into so many different communities and so many different neighborhoods. And I saw the impact of what access or lack of access
Mhm.
had on communities and quality education had on communities. And so that was a part of it. When my oldest child was going off to kindergarten, there was a brand new public school being opened in my, area, my community. It was the school that we were zoned to. And so at that time, there were probably half of the students rather coming from public housing and being zoned to the school. And then on the other end of downtown Memphis, an extremely affluent area. And that's where I was zoned, or, our house was zoned to it. And I just believe in public education. You and I, we both went to public schools from grade
Mhm.
school all the way through high school. And so that's when I said, well, let's give it a try. It's a brand new school, and my husband, who had gone to private schools his whole life, I love to tease him that you went to I went to public schools, you went to private schools, and we ended up at the same top university. So saved my parents a whole lot of money. But also I just felt a calling. I felt a calling to be a part of the solution
Mm.
of giving
Mhm.
back to my community. And for me, that meant sending my children to the neighborhood school that I was zoned to. And because of the wonderful experiences that I have been exposed to, I could bring that knowledge into that school to make sure that every child, no matter what their socioeconomic background was, that they had access to the very best of the best, because that's what they deserve, period, no matter what their zip code may be. So, but then it was like, oh gosh, how do I translate that into something as formal as you were asking? Why was I so hesitant? Because I thought it was something more than what I was doing. I was like, oh, a politician. And then, after you talking to me and actually observing you and your career, and how you just were so engaged politically, and what that meant for you was just empowering other women. And you encouraged me to go to a leadership summit for women, up in Chicago. And I came up there and I did that. And it just slowly, you were just dripping on me over the years. And then finally, it came to the point where I wasn't pleased with the person who was serving in the role. And I said, well, why not me? Why not? And I just kind of, I don't know, just something clicked finally after what, 10, 12 times of you telling me I should run for office, it clicked.
That's what they say, that women have to be asked multiple times to run for office before they say yes. It's like a statistical fact. And there's Rutgers University, Women in Government and Leadership did a study on that, and it's just fascinating. So yeah, I've been, I was asking, and I wasn't the only one asking you to run for that office, but it was scary for you. You didn't see yourself doing it. I'll be honest, politics is a little intimidating for anyone, but particularly for women. So but what I like, what at the end of the day, you chose to pivot into this role because you were answering your calling, your calling. So I wanted to talk about the different kinds of pivots. What are the different kinds of pivots? So when we come back, sounds like there's a commercial break. The Force of Friendship ladies, and we got issues, got to pay some bills, so they got to collect those coins. So after the break, we'll come back and talk about this. There are three kinds of pivots that really drive our decisions. So I can't wait to talk about it with you. We'll be back. All right, I think we are back. Welcome back to We Got Issues. We Got Issues. And I'm excited to be joined by Michelle. My name is Cheryle Jackson. I'm the CEO of My Own Doctor. I'm also the founder of Grit and Grace the movement. Grit and Grace the movement. So what was that born out of? Issues. Okay. The show says it's about we got issues. That the whole movement was born out of issues. I have been at a very interesting perch, a rare perch to be in C-suites and in boardrooms of very elite industries and cultures and male dominated spaces. Uh, I, I saw firsthand, first of all, my own experience, okay, of the micro and macro aggressions trying to, pursue your ambitions. And it was tough. And then I always wanted to automatically support women, to help them, like I supported you. That's everywhere I went, every job I've had, every company I've been in. How can I support women? I saw some stuff that went down that just wasn't fair. So Grit and Grace, the movement came out of a personal crisis of mine. Facing divorce and breast cancer at the same time. And I gave a TED talk, and the TED talk was about this sort of honoring the hard charging careers of women, but how do we take care of ourselves? And oftentimes, I did a lot of career pivots, and sometimes they for different reasons, and sometimes it's a high cost to the pivot. And we're going to talk about that later at the end, how to pivot sort of risk-free, or at least manage the risk. But I've done a lot of pivoting, and so I just wanted to sort of share my insights, my experiences of all of my pivots with women. Here's what I know: there are 3 kinds of pivots, Michelle.
Okay.
And one pivot is the pivot of crisis. Crisis like the pandemic, people were laid off, lost their jobs, or, God forbid, you get fired, or there's a change in leadership, whatever the reason, it kind of forces you to pivot. It's painful, okay, but it gives you a permission slip to change your life, even as painful as it is. So there's a pivot of crisis. The next pivot is, people think the crisis pivot is the most difficult, it's not. Actually, it's the easiest pivot because the decision is made for you. So you just have to get with the program, make the best of it. Then there's the pivot, the pivot of opportunity. So this is the pivot where a wonderful opportunity lands in your lap. Okay. And you don't go looking for it. It comes looking for you. And I think most people think that's the pivot I want. I really manage my risk. I don't have to really put myself out there. It's safe. But here's the thing with pivots, opportunity pivots, because they come to you, they may not be in full alignment with your soul's desire, your purpose, and your calling. But because it comes with, the trappings of money and stature and title, it lures you into these opportunities that when you wake up 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10 years down the road, you're like, I'm stuck in this, role that that's not feeding my soul or positioning me for more growth. So you have to be careful about those opportunity pivots. And then there's the strategic pivot. And the strategic pivot, most people think that the most painful is the pivot of crisis, the most difficult. It may be the most painful, but it's not the most difficult. It's the easiest. Others think that the opportunity pivot is the easiest. It can trick you into a dead end role. It's the strategic pivot that this is where you make the choice. You decide that I want this. I'm ready to grow. I want to pursue this opportunity. That's the hardest pivot. And I think, Michelle, why you wrestled with, running for office is because you had to willingly put yourself out there, take on a lot of risk, implode your sweet little life of the four kiddos and idyllic life of four kiddos, an adoring husband, and all of that, to put yourself out there. And that the strategic pivots are the most difficult to do because you have to choose. You have to choose change, and you have to choose to change your world, and it comes with a lot of risk and uncertainty. And we are really uncomfortable with uncertainty. So those are the three pivots. I just told you what your pivot was. I'm about to ask you. So what kind of pivot was that? But I've already told you. But here's the thing: is you're now considering another pivot.
Oh,
What tell people where you
oh,
are, and what you're up to? And we've got
okay, okay.
good evening, ladies. Everyone's typing in. Oh, by the way, if you have questions, call us at 313-778-7600. We can't wait to take your questions. So yes, drum roll. Boom, 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 boom. What is it?
Right. And I don't know if maybe they can even throw some questions up in the chat, Cheryl. I know you love a chat. She's got an
Yeah.
amazing women's group and they have their live chat. So hello, everyone. I do see your comments, but I can't respond to it. So Carolyn and Millicent and Mylita, I'm trying to see some of the other names I see here. Amelia. Oh gosh. Thank you, Bernetta. We see you guys. So thank you so much for joining us via Facebook, and for everyone that's listening on the radio. This is just the coolest show, by the way. I love it. I love it. So, but Cheryl, to answer your question, the grit and grace and my pivot and where I am right now, I can't express enough that I feel so blessed. First of all, I'd have to give a shout out to my sister Cheryl, because she really just doesn't toot her horn like she should. I mean, when she said that prior to becoming CEO of a telehealth company and prior to launching her women's empowerment movement and business with grit and grace, her being a global corporate genius, and she was president of a division over the entire continent of Africa and visiting countries like Kenya and Nigeria and South Africa and Ghana. And so I just have to put that out there. She was a baddie. Okay. I'm just gonna put it like that. Which brings me to where I am right now. I wish I could say that this is my home in the background for those who can see it. But my house is not this clean. I am in a hotel room. I am in a hotel room in Boston, Massachusetts. I am a part of a week-long executive leadership education program for women called Women in Power. And it's amazing. There are women, it's a global summit from women all over the world. There are, more than a dozen women from countries in Africa, ranging from Zimbabwe to Namibia, like I said, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire. Just amazing. And then I met one woman who is
And I think
the ambassador.
you left out the part that you're at Harvard.
Oh yeah, I'm at Harvard, darling. I'm at Harvard. And so I feel a little bit of a traitor. Sidebar, okay? Forgive me. I'm the queen of sidebars. But Cheryl and I, Cheryl is that auntie mama. I don't know if you guys are the auntie mama, but she is the auntie that all the nieces and nephews love and adore. She's hip, she's cool, and so that's truly their, just second mama there. And so Cheryl and I were just here in Boston together a couple of days ago, the last few days on the East Coast. And she came, two of my sons graduated, one from Yale University and the other from the Naval Academy Preparatory School. So she came to their graduations, and I stayed up here in Boston, and she went back to Chicago so that I could be here at this Harvard program so I could continue to grow. Cheryl is always about, when you're at this position of like wanting to spread your wings and grow, go seek out that support and go learn something new. So I'm here at Harvard University attending a week-long summit of global women leaders from across the country. That I mentioned the one that was from the Swedish ambassador to Austria. So just amazing. And then like deputy ministers and prime ministers, various countries in Africa. So it's just amazing. And so that's what I'm doing right now to learn how to become a stronger leader, period. And thank you for the congratulations on my sons and everything. I appreciate that. So there you go, Cheryl. I'm going to toss it back to you.
You're a little qualified to be an education advocate. Your boys are doing well, Yale and the U.S. Naval Academy and DePaul University. I'm trying to get Michelle to write a book. You know, you need somebody in your life, ladies, that are 100% in your corner. Okay, 100% in your corner, that will see greatness in you before you can see it in yourself. And so you gotta have your tribe. You gotta have people in your life that aren't jealous of you, aren't giving you the side eye or that sort of backhanded compliments. You need someone fully in your corner that's supporting you. So Michelle's at Harvard trying to get a bigger vision of herself. And my next push for Michelle is a higher office. She is loath to say what it is, so I won't go there. I'll let her share her news. But it's big, y'all. It's big, okay? So you got to keep a vision in front of you. You got to keep a big vision in front of you and have people in your life that support that see you. So it looks like we're gonna head into another break. It was just getting juicy. Bernetta, I see you, girl. You said you had numerous crisis pivots. When we come back, I'm gonna talk to you, Bernetta. We're gonna talk about your situation, okay? Your issues, okay? So we will be back after this commercial break. Hang out and share the Facebook post with your friends. right, we are back from the commercial break, and I'm Cheryl Jackson, CEO of My Own Doctor and founder of Grit and Grace, the movement that helps people. You can learn more about me on my social media, LinkedIn, it's Cheryl R. Jackson. On Facebook, it's Cheryl Robinson Jackson. And on Instagram, it's Cheryl Jackson. Michelle, what are your handles so that folks can, be all up in your business, okay, and follow you? What's your handle?
Oh, you know what, Cheryl? I will. I am not as savvy as you are with social media, but hey, you can find me. I dip in and out. I'm a kind of sometimey with it, but Michelle McKissack, Michelle Robinson McKissack. But you can pretty much find just put Michelle McKissack and put in Memphis, and they'll pop up wherever they are. But I've got it all: Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So
and you got to drop it in the comments what it is, because you spell your name McKissack funny. It's got an A instead of an I in there. McKissack.
That's right.
Instead of
McKissack. Mac Kiss ACK. So.
Ooh, okay then. You so fast. Okay. I'm gonna tell your husband. Okay. All right. So we're back. And I'm reading the comments. Someone said they needed that. They they love having a bigger vision. So here's the thing: is I'm about to get to you, Bernetta. Here's what I find, particularly for women, especially for Black women, women of color. We're in worker bee mode. And we see ourselves, and I'm going to be interviewing this professor from the University of Pennsylvania. She and several of her colleagues did research and on women taking on work, busy work that doesn't advance your career, and how women need to start saying no to that kind of work. But our value, society puts that on us, that our value is in being helpful, getting the job done, reliable, doing the work that the boys maybe don't want to do. And so you have to keep a vision of yourself. You cannot only see yourself as a worker bee. You also have to update what your vision of success, what success looks like for you. We could outgrow our success. When I look back, when I've made pivots, a lot of times when I've left one role to move to another role, that I was like, wow, maybe it was premature. I was, just getting my groove, and that's what I felt at the time. But as I look back, I had gotten all the juice I was going to get out of that grape. We stay too long in roles trying to cross every T twice, dot I's 3 times, and that's particularly specific for women. Women do that. So I'm excited for this conversation with this professor. In June 1st, we're going to talk about the no club, saying no to work that does not serve you, does not advance your career, and more importantly, doesn't feed your soul. Bernetta said she had numerous crisis pivots during your career in education. The last became an opportunity pivot into my retirement and full entrepreneurship. You know what? God bless you, Bernetta. However we get there, all that ends well is well. Okay, so if you're in a good space, that's fantastic. But my work and why we're having this conversation is that I don't want women to wait for the crisis. To push you out and give you the permission to move.
So, Cheryl, I want to jump in there because I want to learn, because as you mentioned off the top of the show, that you've had a really illustrious and varied career, being the president and CEO of the Chicago Urban League, and then, of course, senior vice president with NPR, and working in high-level government and politics, even running for U.S. Senate for Illinois. And I'm just bringing this up to speed for those who may have joined in. I'm putting on my journalism hat too, because this is fun. I don't get to do this often. And so with all that transition, and now as CEO of a telehealth company, what did you consider your biggest pivot? And like, how did you make that transition? We heard a little bit about my story, how I went from journalism to being in the education and, more importantly, the public servant sphere. That's how I view myself, not as a politician. Yes, I'm involved in politics, but I really see myself as a public servant. So we talked about that, but I want to hear more about your career, because even though they seem really different, obviously there's got to be a common thread in there somewhere.
Yeah, there is a through thread. I remember Chris Gardner, the author of Pursuit of Happiness. He said, "Cheryl, your career makes no damn sense to me. It looks like the Peace Corps. Okay, like what are you doing? All right, because it was just, he thought all over the map. He didn't see the through thread. I'm jumping from nonprofit to the media to politics to corporate, in manufacturing and aviation defense. He just could not see the through thread. But there is one. And my biggest pivot was not on its face, my most successful pivot. Matter of fact, it was not a success. But my biggest and most dramatic pivot that really, put me on a different path is when I ran for U.S. Senate, Barack Obama's Senate seat. Y'all, that was the hardest thing to do. I was the only woman in that race, the only person of color in that race, and I was under a lot of besieged with a lot of comments and attacks like, "Who are you to run for Senate, U.S. Senate, Barack Obama's, President Obama's Senate seat? Like, girl, you just got here yesterday, like 5 minutes ago. Like, who are you to do this?" And so I was really up against that, their voices, and then my own voice. Of doubt. But I wanted to share this quote is really key to that pivot that I made. I love this quote. I don't know who it's by, but it's perfect. "The closer you get to your genius, the more you'll face the sabotage of your fears. The closer you get to your genius, the more you'll face the sabotage of your fears." So, the closer you get to walking in your brilliance, we're all coming in this world born with brilliance. We don't have to go be brilliant. We just have to remember our brilliance and lean into that and cultivate that. But our brilliance and the greatness of who we are, we come into this world as, it's really hard. Particularly for women of color, because you don't see yourself. So when I ran for U.S. Senate, there was no Karen Mosley Braun. Thank God, she was a U.S. senator from Illinois. So I had that, but it was very isolating. I had to convince myself that I had the right to run for this office. I was dealing with their chatter. I was dealing with my own sabotage of my own fears. And so here's where I landed. That my ideas, I believed in the power of my ideas to make a difference and contribute to help people live better lives. And my ideas were just as valid as the next person's ideas. That was the scariest pivot when I left being president and CEO of the Chicago Urban League, where I had a really, really successful run there, to run for something I didn't know how it was going to end. No, the powers that be really didn't want me there. I won't say that. I was on the short list, on President Obama's short list when it was up, the role was up for appointment by the governor. And so President Obama shared a short list of people that he would like to see in his Senate and in his seat. And I was on his short list. And so I was so stunned. I was like, if the most powerful, charismatic genius of a man, the president of the United States, thinks that I could fill his shoes in the U.S. Senate. I mean, it really changed how I saw myself and what was possible for myself. So while, I didn't get the appointment, I decided to run for the seat. And so it was the most difficult pivot, the most painful pivot, the scariest pivot. But it was it was a move that was very defining for my career. So even though I wasn't ultimately successful, I ran a very strong campaign, but I didn't win the primary. It really put
But
me
I
on.
want to point out, though, Cheryl, I want to point out that you did win the city of Chicago. I mean, and you didn't win downstate Illinois, and downstate Illinois is far different from the city of Chicago's, but you won the city of Chicago. So that is like a
Yeah,
huge, huge, like, congrats. I don't want you to ever forget that.
that's what the people say. Okay, so but the biggest struggle for that pivot was with my own self. And oftentimes that's our biggest struggle. What vision do you have for yourself? And you need to reimagine what success looks like for you. So with that, we're going into our last commercial break. I cannot believe this. This is going by so fast. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so y'all hold on, get your questions in, and we'll see you after the break. Hello, hello, hello. We are back for the final hour, for the final quarter of the show. I love chair dancing. That's about the only dancing I get in these days. Is just dance in the chair. But it gives you energy, right? Gives you energy.
Mhm.
I want to, in this last quarter of this hour, last segment, I want to talk about how to pivot risk free. Okay, so that was, that's a setup, right? No such thing as risk free, but you can make really smart pivots. And I am. I'm reading the producer's notes. I'm sorry, y'all. We don't do this every day, like the Force of Friendship ladies. So I'm gonna read my little cheat sheet notes from the producer. If you want to put your social media call signs, here I can put them in the chat. Or oh, so Michelle, you do that. You put them in the chat. That's what Dorothy's saying. The producer. Sorry, y'all. Y'all got a little behind the scenes peek at how these shows get produced. So. Um, we want to talk about how to make your pivots smart pivots. That's really what we're talking about. How to leverage and maximize opportunities and do it in a smart way. So I'm not, not everyone has to do what I did. I'm not sure I would do that again. I left the Chicago Urban League job and just ran for U.S. Senate. I just jumped into the race. But here's what you can do to maximize or minimize risk and maximize opportunity. I call it grow, then go. Grow, then go. That's what you're doing at Harvard, Michelle. You're getting a bigger vision of yourself. You're, boning up on additional skills. The biggest issue is our mindset. It's a mindset, a willingness, and our
Yeah.
tolerance. Right. It's between the ears. That's the biggest saboteur is what's between your ears.
Right.
Um,
Because what's interesting, Cheryl, is that, so many times other people can see what you're not really seeing for yourself, like how you did for me. You were like, Michelle, you are, you're already in this sphere, you're already advocating for children. Why not make it official and advocate on a larger scale? And thankfully, I did finally listen to you. But yeah, it's just like you've really got, that's why it's important to pour into yourself and to help yourself, like you said, to grow and then take your game to the next level.
Absolutely. Grow. So before you step out into the deep, look for opportunities right where you are to deepen your skill set and your strengths, to practice your talents. We're all born. Here's the thing is, the key to walking in your brilliance is to live in alignment, and alignment between what your soul came here to do, what your soul desires, um, aligned with your natural innate talents, and then to be in a space or create spaces that support and nurture that. That is where your magic sauce is, and how you win is to lead from your strengths. So view right where you are as an opportunity to take those talents and deepen them into strengths that deliver for you time and time again. Like Michael Jordan, whenever he went to the hoop, he was going to sink the ball, okay? Because he focused on his natural talent and honed it until it was a strength that delivered for him. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to second guess your strengths. So that's one thing. You want to look for projects, ask for projects, assignments, stretch assignments inside of your company. The other thing is, here's the honest truth. For women, we don't get the choices projects. They go to men. And I'm talking to this professor at University of Pennsylvania about this very problem. So, you can't always negotiate that project or that opportunity or that stretch assignment at your job or where you are, because, you aren't given they don't look at you as for those kinds of opportunities. That's when you need an outside-inside game. Outside inside game. So basically, you go outside of your organization or your company, and you find an outlet for full expression of your talent and strength and skill set. When I worked for, was the press secretary for the governor. I mean, it was a tough job. It was kind of a toxic environment. I still have PTSD from that job. Okay, it was tough, and
Mhm.
so it was really, really sucking the life. It was a soul suck. It wasn't fueling my soul. It was draining my soul. And so what I did was I went outside of government in my role and pitched an opportunity, a project to my alma mater for me to interview, help them recruit, other alums at a fun event where I interviewed Harold Ramis, and it really, I played to my strength. I'm a communicator. It played to my strength, and so I just want to encourage people to. Sometimes we get restless. Um, and we don't take advantage of the period of preparation. So, and looking for new opportunities, building your skills and your strengths. The woman, I think it was Bernetta, she was talking about her numerous crisis pivots. You really want to. You can manage yourself out of a crisis. We always do. There's always a way. Okay, there's always a way. But to control your career and control your steps, and to live into, really your soul's desire, what makes you brilliant, you have to place those shots. You have to make the shots. You have to create the shots. And so you do that by looking right where you are for opportunities to grow. And using that platform, using your job, what can I do right where I am that will expose me to other networks, that will expose me to other opportunities and other experiences that lead to my next. That's a smart way to pivot to a new career in a new industry or new company or new function. You got any advice, Michelle?
Yeah, I just think just to be open to the possibility. Don't be your own worst enemy. Don't be that obstacle, and to go for it, because what's the worst that could happen? You be you're told no. And if you don't try, I mean, however cliche this may sound, it's just the honest to goodness truth. If you don't try, you're already at no before you even open your mouth or take a step. So that is what has been my lesson, I think. And also just to pray on. I'm a person of faith. I know Cheryl is, and we got a praying mama. And so and I look to my faith to help guide and direct me, and everything happens at a certain time. But just kind of get out of your own way and don't be your own obstacle.
I think that's right. I stepped into this new role, being CEO of a telehealth company. I don't have a healthcare background. You also have to know, kind of be focused to make career pivots. You really got to be clear about your talents and skills and how they transfer and translate to other industries. So, my degree is in painting and drawing, y'all. Okay. So I have done a lot of things that had nothing to do with what I was trained to do. Um, but understanding how your skills and your talents can translate to other industries and other opportunities can really grease that pivot for you. So I hope that it looks like thanks Lawana. She says, great show. Thanks, Millicent. I hope everyone enjoyed this. I hope that it has inspired your next career pivot. You need to always be pivoting. That's how we get from night to day and back to night again. The sun is a series of pivots. So stay up on your toes, pivot into your greatness, and then walk in your brilliance. And I can't wait for the force of friendship, the ladies, to come back with all of their shenanigans and spill the tea on their trip in Hawaii. So with that, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Good luck
Thank
at
you.
Harvard. And thank you for this opportunity. Appreciate you guys.